Last year I made a video on Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, just a year ago. It'd be a bit foolish to remaster a video after such a short amount of time. In that video there were two big flaws. The first was a mistake I made when discussing the health system. The other was inadequately explaining why the grenade spam wasn't so great, although I thought that one spoke for itself. So for this video, I want the discussion to center around this question. What is an acceptable amount of change for a remaster? When you remake something, you are starting from scratch and creating something that is akin to its namesake, but with the more modern stylings of its creator. When you remaster something, you are taking an original work and providing further and more modern polish to it, while keeping the spirit of the original. Call of Duty 4's remaster is largely a graphical remaster, so there really shouldn't be much for me to talk about. And there wouldn't be, if it wasn't for this scene. I didn't know the extent of the changes until I saw this scene in a video. The nuke scene in Modern Warfare is its most iconic scene. It's supposed to be shocking because the main character just died. A main character we've only been piloting for 4 levels, and it misses the opportunity to have the death actually look like the real death for that added immersion. Point is, if the objective of a COD 4 remaster was just to graphically remaster the original, while keeping the spirit of the original game, then why has this scene been changed? In the original scene, Jackson watches the airman get flung out of the helicopter. He is a passive participant. There's no questioning how heroic Jackson is because just moments prior he personally pulled an injured pilot out of a helicopter, but that's not obvious enough, so in the remastered version he is now an active participant, attempting to save the airman, who also gets flung out. The entire meaning of the scene has been completely changed due to this. Jackson has now been made to look more heroic, the scene is more dramatic and tragic, and the scene is more quote-unquote exciting. However, this is a change to the original spirit of the scene. For one thing, if the original developers had intended for the scene to play out like this, then they could have done so, because the original game had first-person animations. And if they didn't because of the limitations of time or budget, that's still a reflection of their art. However, even more egregious than this is the following level. In the original, it is dark and cloudy. Jackson is entirely alone, passing the bodies of his compatriots and the pilot he had saved moments prior that had trapped them in the radius of the explosion in the first place. Jackson is diegetically implied to be stronger than all the other soldiers, by him shrugging off bullets and being expected to do everything from clear rooms, fire the javelin, and take out the anti-air single-handedly. So it makes a degree of sense that he is the last Marine to go down. In the remastered scene, things are less cloudy. The explosion is more prominent. His fellow soldiers are now dying around him instead of already being dead, and worst of all, they include the stupid audio stinger that is entirely composed of effects from an unsettling genre from an audio library. Dying in a nuclear explosion was plenty dramatic for 2007, but in 2017 it has to be amped up because modern gamers are just too stupid to recognize the emotional importance of this scene. I didn't actually think it was possible to make Modern Warfare more insulting to people's intelligence, but here we are. And yeah, this is a remaster after only 10 years. Did we need this? Did we want this? Who wanted this? This isn't the only change present. The tutorial level has been extended to include originally cut content. It is optional, sure, but maybe consider that it was cut for a reason. You see, explosives and maneuvering are things the player can learn and experiment with in the cargo ship mockup. It's one of the reasons that it's so popular, and one of the things I respect. Modern Warfare actually provided you with material that it doesn't extensively cover in its tutorial for you to learn about on your own while playing the game. Other big changes would be minor pacing changes in cutscenes, the biggest offender being the first level near the end. In the original, Soap jumps to the helicopter but barely makes it. He's hanging on and starts slipping. It lasts just long enough for the player to recognize the danger before Price steps in and saves Soap. Now it's almost immediate that Price springs into action. The player isn't in danger long enough to even recognize it before the danger is very clearly over. There is subtext to the scene. In the level, players start off by massacring unsuspecting soldiers, then killing a drunk man and 2 men in their sleep. Even the level's name, Crew Expendable, is an implication to the moral grayness of this story. Price taking a moment to save Soap creates a level of dissonance in the story, a slight imperfection in his character, an indicator that Price is not the perfect hero. The aughts, as a decade, were defined by 9/11, the Patriot Act, and the myriad of media that glamorize the unsung heroes of intelligence and special forces, protecting us from the just as deadly plots we don't hear about. But by the mid-aughts, people started to be bothered by how tyrannical that sentiment was. Reality started to creep in, and these things quickly became less than glamorous. You see, what separates Modern Warfare from, say, Medal of Honor Warfighter is that its characters are not supposed to be the good guys. Sure, they are better than the despots and caricatures of the baddies, but there is just enough dissonance to really let you question the morality of the situation. In the remaster, this dissonance is replaced with resonance. Price is no longer the imperfect hero, he's now a man of action who is perfect in his operation. The thing is, there is no question in the level that Price is heroic. Moments earlier, Price helped Soap up to his feet to escape the sinking ship. This, at the very least, does show that Price is concerned with his men, which is important because he jokingly mocks Soap in the tutorial. There is banter, but when the chips are down, Price does care. He hits that first beat, but slightly misses the second. That's what creates dissonance. Good lord, am I praising Modern Warfare? Well, that's the thing. This remaster is taking elements of it that are good, that actually work, and changing them because the developers think they know better. And then this game is being sold as an equivalent experience to the original. Another change is this scene.
Well, that wasn't so hard, was it? Now go and sit in the corner. So, guys, we've got to reach that house before anything happens to the informant. Let's go.
In the original, after it ends, Kamarov actually has a sit-down, like Gaz says to.
What was it? Now go and sit in the corner. So, guys, we've got to reach that house before anything happens to the informant. Let's go.
In the remaster, I guess the devs realized it was a problem that the SAS threatened Kamarov, only for Kamarov to forget about it later in the game, so they decided to fix that little mistake by showing him not being bothered by what just happened. Or how about the finale? This one just pisses me off. In the original, the helicopter gets shot down. In the remaster, one of the blades goes by the player's head at Mach speed. It's such a minor thing and it makes me mad because it's completely unnecessary because it doesn't add to the scene any. Or how about the fact that the developers had Price and Griggs acquire circular saws between levels to justify where they get them from later? I don't even think a nitpicking asshole like myself pointed that one out just because I assumed they came from the reinforcements that came in via helicopter. Like seriously, why? Why this change? Now I'll talk about something that doesn't make me as mad, which is the little first-person animations added to the mid-levels. I think it's an appropriate addition, unlike the other changes, because there were already basic scene transitions in these moments. And of course, the graphics. A big change is the lighting. Dark scenes in Modern Warfare were never actually dark enough to warrant using the provided night vision, and there's lots of changes that make scenes look more interesting. Of course, it's not dynamic lighting. Even in 2017, we can't do what should have been standard practice in 2007. But, well, here's the thing. Why change the graphics? After all, if a remaster is about bringing art to a new generation, well, textures and lighting are part of the art. There was a developer that worked hard on this lighting. For instance, in this scene we're carrying Macmillan and we see this shadow go across the wall. That's great. It communicates wordlessly to the player that danger is coming and that you should put down Macmillan and get ready. It's hardly original, but it shows there was thoughtful consideration to that moment. There was an artist behind that moment, an artist who might have chosen to abstain from lighting other areas that have now been lit. So really, when you graphically remaster something, you aren't bringing all of the art with you. Someone worked hard on these enemy models that you've changed the fundamental design of. I can handle playing older games with older graphics because I take into context the time period when I consider these things. There is going to be a day in 2027 where the remaster isn't going to look up to snuff. I like the Halo Combat Evolved remaster. It had a button that lets you switch between graphics modes, which was great because it let you see the scenes as they were originally and as they were remastered. How about the audio? Many of the guns have been given reworked audio. The 1911 no longer sounds like a cap gun. They even fixed this sequence where Price says 1911 uses the wrong sound effect. But the actual dialogue is still the same. Now, I get doing that for the main characters, sure, but what about this line I pointed out in my first video?
Yes, I can still fight. Thank you for getting me out of here.
I mean, if we're in the habit of fixing things like that breaching sequence, why not change Nikolai's voice actor to be more dynamic in his presentation? Why say we're allowed to change the gun audio, but not the voice acting? Where is the line? Is it because there was humans involved in the voice acting? Well, humans were also involved in creating those gun sound effects, so that doesn't hold weight. Well, if the developers aren't allowed to change anything, then what's the point of a remaster? That is a great question. From my perspective, there is no point in remasters. I don't need a graphical update. The old animations were fine. The old audio was fine. If you want to appreciate Modern Warfare, go play the original. And further, these remasters are criminally priced. $40 for a texture pack? Which gets to the heart of the issue. The entire reason for this remaster's existence is not to celebrate Modern Warfare because the remake came out only 2 years later. There were likely devs who went from the remaster project straight to the remake project. And nothing says celebration quite like selling its DLC all over again. So, here's the deal. If you want to charge money for a remaster, here's what I expect. First, update the support for modern systems. Not saying this remaster doesn't do that, it's just what I expect. Second, allow the player to switch between new and old graphics modes. If The Cursed Crusade, a budget title from 2011, can render 2 versions of each level, a AAA developed remaster can too. Third, don't fix the old flaws. If I were to actually remaster my old video, I would leave in the flaws and only add in clarification of how I was originally wrong. It's important to recognize and make apparent our mistakes, because it allows people to learn. There are people I watch that I enjoy seeing their old content and how they evolved. And I don't like when people try to cover up their past mistakes. So, to answer my original question, there is no acceptable amount of change for remasters. This may seem paradoxical, but as somebody who actually appreciates games as an art form, well, it's important to appreciate things as close to what they were as pragmatically possible. I made this video as a quick side project to take a break from the Morrowind series. If you want to see me not being overly critical, I suggest you go watch it because I am putting a lot of work into making it. If you want to see more then, and I am basically being forced into saying this at this point, like if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, comment your opinion, subscribe if you want more, and click the bell if you want YouTube to be a functional platform that actually tells you when content comes out.